What up? What up? I'm Franklin Cooper.
Tristan Jones.
Hi, I'm Marcy Gonzalez.
And you are watching Watchers in the Basement. What up, y'all, ladies and gents in the Watchers in the Basement world? Today we are covering Yellowstone today. So this is going to be our Yellowstone week. We covered 1923 yesterday. Today we're covering episode 8 of season 5. It's called A Knife and No Coin. And I must say, shit's about to get grimy. I love this episode, man. And I feel like I haven't said that in a while about how much I love the episode. But things are finally starting to take hold now. Things are solidifying. The enemy lines have been drawn. That boy, it is crazy because we've kind of defended Jamie throughout his arc from season 1 until now, outside of one or two things. Yeah, this is some fuckboy behavior now. This is some quality fuckboy behavior. And I initially thought it was stupid as fuck for him to do what he did. But apparently he has dirt that he's not afraid to come out with. But Tristan, what was your thoughts on the episode so far, man? And what do you think is going to happen 9 months later when the mid-season finale comes back?
Man. I really like this episode. I've been so caught up in the 1923 hype that I had to rewatch the episode just to kind of remember parts of it. But I like the episode. I thought this episode was really won in the conversations. There's really no action, but there's the lead up to the action at the end, which gets really, really tense. And what I think kicked the episode up a notch. But really good episode. Like I said, I enjoyed. This was a really good John Dutton episode. As far as just hearing him, seeing him kind of interact with his family and those around him with, I guess, this feeling of this all could end at some point. So seeing seeing John Dutton vulnerable, I think has brought out or kind of brought back the great Kevin Costner in his character, which you could argue the writing hasn't allowed us to get from him over the last couple of seasons, but he's really shined, I think, this season, and especially in an episode like this. So, really good episode. Enjoyed it.
Marcy, what were your thoughts?
I also like this episode. This one, along with the episode where they all went to the fair, I think are my two favorite episodes of the season. I did want it to have a little bit more because it felt like the whole season has been so slow and it's just building up. And I'm like, okay, when you've been waiting for something for a long time, you're like, okay, it's a slow burn, but it's going to have a really great payoff at the end. I don't feel like the payoff was as good for me for this finale as I was hoping it would be, but it was still an enjoyable episode. I've liked it better than most of the other episodes that we've seen this season. I loved the vulnerability that we saw from John, like Tristan mentioned. It's getting very Shakespearean as well. We see Jamie and Sarah are kind of like Macbeth and Lady Macbeth now, where they're plotting to maybe kill John, maybe kill the whole family. So it's going to be interesting when the rest of the season comes back later this year to see what happens.
Let's talk about Jamie. I know that was later on in the episode, but I want to talk about him since we've mentioned him.
Real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Lady Macbeth, bottom 5 wife of all time. Can we?
Clearly, yeah. Yeah. Bottom 5.
Who else gets in there? Bottom 5 wives of all time.
Yeah, I have to say. I mean, Samson and Delilah weren't married, but that's up there too. Yeah. Huh?
We have to put up a poll at some point. Give us your top 5 worst wives of all time.
Amber Heard, maybe.
Which one?
Amber Heard kind of comes to mind.
Okay, so we're doing real and fictional wives.
Just in general,
okay,
yeah.
Okay.
Of all, okay.
Cersei Lannister.
Cersei Lannister.
She's up there too.
Rhaenyra Targaryen.
All right, man. Let's stay on topic. We'll do a poll on that though. I want to talk about Jamie, man, because I feel like hindsight is 2020. I feel like we've given him too much credit, and like we've given him a lot of like leash. And what he did, man, was fuck boys to the 10th degree. Look, I get it. You felt like you've been like estranged from your father John all these years, and your sister hates you, and all of this stuff. But like, you are attorney general. Your dad allowed you to be attorney general. You are a top tier lawyer. You are wealthy. Like this is like the white privilege like kind of kicking in. Like, oh my god, my daddy was mean to me type bullshit. I think Beth like mimicked that. Like I think like in season 4 or something. It was something to that effect.
We made the comparison between the way Cersei did Tyrion.
Yes.
Thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it bothers me that he does not see that Sarah Atwood does not focus. This is a job for Sarah. This is a mission. She was put on a mission to get John out of the governorship and to try to get the market equities project going again with the airport and everything. This is a job for her, and like she might be the most expensive hooker of all time.
The enemy signs her checks.
Yeah, like the market enemy signs her checks, and like it makes me so mad that Jamie does not see this coming. Because like once they get what they want, Sarah's done.
Yeah,
and for Jamie to put everything at risk, because I mean, when you lose, when she because she's probably going to expose him as well. And I don't understand why Jamie thinks this is a wise move, because you're exposing yourself as well. Let's say Beth has all this shit on him. Let's say Jamie comes out and says, you know what, the train station, all of this stuff was used to our resources when enemies came arise. That's fine. You don't think Beth is going to expose you as well? Bro, you're going to prison too. So what are you doing here? Like, you don't have the upper hand. You both you and John both on equal ground right now. If John goes down, you go down too. Marshall, what are your thoughts on his approach to all of this as far as Jamie's?
I've been one to like defend Jamie a lot this season, but this episode I'm like, really, Jamie? She's obviously still playing you, because at first I didn't know if maybe he was in on it too and he's playing Sarah, or if she got to like him. I seriously think like she's just still playing him. Yes, he can also like put out the dirt on John and everybody else with the train station, but does he have concrete proof? Because otherwise, isn't it just hearsay? He can just say like, well, I've heard or I've known that they do this, but he doesn't have proof. Like Beth has actual photos of him like throwing his dad down. So I don't think he's being very smart. I think he's just kind of letting Sarah get into his head. And we've kind of seen how like he's just a very vulnerable guy. And Sarah has like been poking at his vulnerabilities and like just kind of like putting little tidbits of what he needs to do in his mind. But also I think he's just letting all the trauma just kind of like make him just not see things very clearly, and maybe isn't doing things very smartly. But they're talking about the train station. Sarah is there. She can be like, oh, like, what are you talking about? She can bring both of them down if she finds out like what the train station is. So yeah, again, like,
Jamie will be an accomplice at this point, because he knows of all this information.
Exactly. Like he withheld this information. He'd also thrown people down through the train station. He'd killed that reporter several seasons ago. So now he's thinking about killing John, when at first he's been like wanting John's approval so badly his entire life. Now like he's so easy to just kind of flip the switch. I think we're just kind of seeing Jamie's descent into madness a little bit. And then Sarah, she is always wrapped up in sheets. Like this poor actress, like, can we please get some clothes on her? Like, they can't be having that much sex, really. Like Jamie, no.
Jamie's a teenage boy. This is probably the second one he's ever been with. They're having that much sex.
Yeah, but where's his kid? Like, we haven't seen his kid all season.
Fuck them kids.
Well,
I'm glad Marcy went first. I'm gonna say a couple things about Sir Jamie Duncan. Sir Jamie Dutton. First thing, I empathize with Jamie Dutton. I do empathize with him. He had, obviously has not known who he was for so long. The family that he grew up in obviously came with some advantages, but also some mental and spiritual, I guess, also disadvantages. And he's had to work that. He's had to live a life he really honestly never wanted to live. Obviously has not gotten the proper love and respect from certain members of his family that he's had to grow up with. With that said, none of that matters, right? Jamie, because the trauma he's had to deal with that Marcy brought up has led to decisions being made, right? Or has led to these insecurities within him that lead to decisions being made that he can't take back, right? And that's the thing that I fear most with Jamie as a character. Is somebody that we've seen since episode 1 of the pilot. Like, he continues to make decisions that should get him killed and us not care. Like, because he is a moron and he's a very smart moron. And those are my worst kind of morons, because it's like, why can't you translate this intelligence in logical reasoning and deductive reasoning here, where you can't see that 2 + 2 = 4, right? You're screaming 5. Like, you have to understand that why she's there. You know why she's there. Your instincts question her after y'all, fucked a couple times for a reason, right? Your instincts are telling you that, right? So at some point you have to follow your instincts, and his lack of instincts or lack of ability to follow his instincts has led him to wage war on a family that is at this point not really his family. At this point, they're associates that share a last name for appearances, right? It's not so much that they could, kill Jamie. It's the fact that they could discredit Jamie from the only thing that he has, which is his job, his reputation as smart guy. So this is dumb. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is really dumb. And not just the fact that you're letting Sarah play you and everyone can see this. It's the fact that you have no allies, right? Like, that's the biggest part of this. You have no allies. And he's trying to wage a war without allies, all he has to honestly to himself is his name. And that belongs to John. So,
well, let me stop you right there, because he does have the District of New York. Because this goes to a federal case, and they hear the evidence about John like bypassing billions of dollars in revenue and billions of jobs. That could be an issue for the District of New York if it goes to a federal case.
How do you come back to Montana after running to New York to, you know what I'm saying, like, to abandon, basically? Because in the eyes of the public, you talk about conjecture and perception. In the eyes of the public, you're abandoning your father. You are betraying your father, right? The governor of Montana, well beloved by at least half of Montana. Like, so yeah, you have that logically, but we're not having a logical conversation. Right? We're talking about power, and we're talking about perception. We're talking about, in this sense, war. So yeah, dumb move.
Does he play it? Let's say I do partly agree with you on not having allies in Montana, but let's say, because this is all about politics at this point. So now you're painting a picture. Jamie could say, you know what, my father, who I thought was my father, lied to me all my life about taking me in and raising me as his own. Because he still has the evidence, the birth certificate evidence, and his real parentage. If that gets out too, I wonder how much that dings John as a father.
Say that you broke up a little bit. Say that last part one time.
I was saying, so like, I know Jamie doesn't have any allies, but let's say he does take this to the highest court. It goes to New York, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in politics, it's all about politicking. It's all about pandering to your audience. Let's say Jamie says, you know what, I'm going to use the birth certificate card of like my father, who I thought was my father, lying to me all my life, saying that I was his biological son, but I was adopted and he never told me. I found out through hearsay, through another source. That could look really bad in the eyes of conservatives in Montana as well.
Or I saved a orphan, or I saved a child whose mother was dead, father in prison, and brought him up as my own. And look at him now, Attorney General of the state of Montana, right? Ivy League educated Attorney General of the state of Montana. Like, does Jamie have the political capital to do that? If he does, and if he wants to go there and he thinks he has the capital, go ahead. But like, that's your funeral, politically and maybe otherwise.
No, it's definitely dicey. It's definitely dicey at the least. Like, I wouldn't have choose to go this route anyways. Like, I mean, I think it's crazy in itself. Marcy, what do you think if he went that route? Let's say he tries to go for impeachment and he pulls up that story of like being adopted and not knowing he was adopted.
I agree with Tristan. I think John, or at least the Dutton family, would be like, we kind of saved Jamie's life. Like, we took him in as our own. Again, we gave him an Ivy League education. He's worked at the ranch. Now he's the Attorney General. I think they could play that as kind of like sympathy for the Dutton family and for John. But again, yeah, he doesn't have any allies. Yeah, like, he takes these cases to court and maybe he wins, but Market Equities isn't like down for Jamie. Like, they just want to get their money. Sarah isn't down for Jamie. She just wants to get her money. John has people who are down for him, who will kill for him, and like, they don't care. They will give up their life for John and for the ranch and for the family. Jamie doesn't have any of that. So I think that's also something that he is failing to consider. And just to me, like, this whole like murder plots, if they decide to go that route, either side, I feel like it's lazy because they've already tried to do murder plots like 2 seasons ago. And, Garrett Randall, wanted to take out the Dutton family. So it's like, can we just do something else, something a little bit different? So I'm hoping that Taylor just kind of takes it to a different route rather than just having both sides kind of take out hits on each other and just kind of seeing who gets caught in the crossfire, because we know somebody is going to get caught in the crossfire. This is Yellowstone. This is what happens. Tate has gone caught in the crossfire. He got kidnapped because of, his connection to the Dutton family. And they had to go through all of that trauma. So it's not going to be a very good ending for either side, I don't think.
Marcia, we talked about that offline as well, about just the simplistic formula of like bringing violence into this. And I don't mind violence in the cowboy gangster element of Yellowstone. That I'm fine with that. That's what I'm here for. I do hope Taylor mixed. I was hoping that he made it more intellectual as far as blackmail and like the politic aspect as far as like trying to damage the other party. Putting out hits on each other is just, to me, is just another simplistic formula that he's already recycled throughout the previous season. So I do agree with that aspect. Tristan, how do you feel about the potential hits on Jamie and John? Like, how do you feel about that storyline?
Hate it. And it kind of extends on another critique I have on part of the storyline, which is like the whole impeachment thing. I don't think enough like levity. I don't think enough work has been done this season to like really pay that off. It was like James. I guess maybe because they did this at the beginning of the episode, like it just felt a little anticlimactic. Like I don't understand where this goes. Like, if I honestly don't agree with a storyline that ends with like John killing Jamie or any, like I don't think that it should have gotten to this point to where like anybody's talking about killing anybody, right? From that family. Like, I don't want to see family, like as strange as they are, I don't want to see family talking about killing family, let alone carrying it out. So hate it. I hope it's some type of misdirection from Taylor. Really hoping that it is there. Like I said, if I want to see I want to see violence on Yellowstone. I want to see that between cowboys. Between like that is an understood realm where we should expect to see that type of violence, right? Like I don't want to think about this. Like just on the surface, let's just lay this out here. The Attorney General of one of the 50 states in the United States of America, who is the adopted son of the governor of the same state in the United States of America, is talking about putting out a hit on said person, right? Just think about it. The Attorney General wants to put a hit out on the governor and the governor's chief of staff.
And nobody's going to find out, right? I mean, obviously, if they go this route, if they hire hitmen, how long do you think it's going to find out before like somebody flips and like says like, oh, well, I was hired by Jamie, or I was hired by Beth Dutton to like off Jamie? It's not going to stay quiet. We watched Dateline, like we know, like people flip all the time.
Dude, they had a plot to kidnap the governor of fucking Michigan.
Yeah,
they got hit up the fucking river. What are you talking about? No, I don't want. I hope this is a misdirection. Pray this is a misdirection.
And like after you just chastise the governor on TV, like you don't think they'll look into that? It makes no sense. And then on top of that too, like the Dutton ideology, John is all about family. Whether how he believes or how he feels about Jamie at this point, he raised him as his own son. Like John is all about loyalty, family, and thinking about the future generations of who takes over this ranch and the legacy that he leaves behind. Being a kinslayer is not something that John wants in his resume. And I hope John poo-poos that idea from Beth, because I think it's a horrible. It's just a bad story idea. I don't know how you write that into this series, and I don't know how Kevin Costner even okays that, because I know he's one of the producers on the show. It doesn't make sense. It's a very barbaric line.
I have a hot take.
Yeah,
what I think is happening here, and I've been kind of developing this, and then some will happen, and then I'll kind of lose faith in it. So this is not a confident take, but it's coming in hot. I think Jamie and John have set about on a ploy to end market equities. I think John.
That's what I thought too, and I was like, no, that's not feasible.
Like it's probably not, because something will happen, and it's like, damn, maybe I'm tripping. But because I guess the reason I'm more confident about it now is because the alternative is so fucking stupid. Like again, the governor and the Attorney General, who also are father and son, are talking about killing each other. This is a stupid storyline. So
yeah,
the only logical alternative is John and Jamie are working together. Either they're intentionally or unintentionally. Like John could be playing these strings from afar to get market equities to, I don't know, purge yourself or whatever, to just get them out of the picture altogether. So I think there's a larger ploy here. I'm hoping it's a larger ploy here, and I'll leave it there.
Yeah, I agree. I started thinking that after Sarah and Ellis come to Jamie's office, and they're like, he's put in a conservation easement, and Jamie's like, oh, like I didn't know that happened. And I'm like, did you really not know, or are you just like, pretending that you didn't know? So that kind of got me thinking, are they kind of working together behind the scenes somehow? And I mean, I don't think John would care if he got impeached. Like he didn't even want to be governor. So might not be the end of the world for him, as long as he's met his objective, which is to save the ranch and get rid of market equities. I don't think he cares if he gets impeached or not, if he can go back to his ranch.
I think he hopes he gets impeached.
Yeah, same here. Let's talk about Rip and his origin story. I might be a minority in this thought process. I don't think we needed this origin story, not this juncture of it. Like in season 2, you get a flashback of Rip witnessing his father kill his mother, and then him killing his father, and then being found on John's ranch as a child. that for me is enough of an origin story of loyalty. I didn't need this storyline of like, oh well, we got to take care of the body, and now you have to be Brandon, and now you can't leave the ranch. Like after John taking him in after his parents died, that was enough for me. Like I was good with that. I was even fine with the Beth Rip flashbacks, but I didn't think this flashback was needed. What do you guys think, Tristan?
Yeah, this flashback was a little setback for me. Like, I've been team flashback. Like I've enjoyed the Rip and Beth flashbacks, and I love any John or James, like any, the past decades flashbacks. This one, I don't, it was just anticlimactic. I don't think it was bad, but we've seen people be branded, and we've seen people be branded after, John came and saved them or some type of way, or, got them out of some type of pickle. So I don't think we needed to see this either. Like I said, I've thoroughly enjoyed them up to this point. So I guess I'm going to hold out hope like that there's something else that's going to happen in the second half of this season that will pay off these flashbacks. But this Sunday, this episode wasn't it.
Marcy, what are your thoughts?
Agree. I don't think maybe it was needed. To me, it didn't really like take away anything from the story or like make me hate it. I think it just is to show like that is why Rip is so loyal, not only because John took him in after he had to kill his dad, but because like after he, did this terrible thing of killing Rowdy to save Beth's honor, like John was still like able to protect him and just kind of keep his secret. But again, it felt very exploitative from John. Like, yes, I'll be protecting you, but also then you have to do what I say forever and stay on my ranch forever. And that's kind of definitely fucked up. But I think it's interesting because it also shows us how loyal like Rip and Lloyd are to each other, because they've been with each other through like those very difficult times for Rip and like through Rip's formative years. So I liked seeing that. So then we can see like why Rip and Lloyd are just so loyal to each other, and they have their bromance, which I love. Anytime we get to see Rip and Lloyd just kind of have like nice moments. Yeah, I don't think it was necessarily needed, but it just hammers home the point. Like, this is why Rip is such a soldier for John. And that's why he would kill for John, because these flashbacks kind of show us that Rip was like a, nice kid, like a pretty gentle kid. And he's always seemed like a good person deep down. So when we see him killing other people for the ranch, I think maybe sometimes it was difficult for us to reconcile. Like, he seems like a good guy. Why is he killing these people? And it just seems like so easy for him. I think that shows us why. It's because he has to be loyal, and he just feels like such a responsibility to be loyal to John, because John has kind of protected him.
I mean, I do definitely get that, but I already had a good, strong sense of his loyalty just from the previous flashbacks and like in who he is as a person now. I would appreciate a more concentrated Lloyd Rip flashback, because those are the two longest tenured guys on the ranch. That would have made more sense to me, because the previous season there was a riff with the whole Walker thing, and I didn't really agree with that, how he treated Lloyd. It would have been nice to sandwich that in this season with some like lighthearted moments of like the infancy of their relationship. For me, I didn't need to see him covering up a murder and something we've seen 1,000 times before in this series. I want to get to this because I'm so happy to see Jimmy again. I was not expecting this. Like and so when I first talked about moving the cattle south, Jimmy did not come up in my mind. I did not think they were moving to Texas, but when he mentioned Travis, having Travis and which is played by Taylor Sheridan, and his gang to help with the cattle, I was like, oh shit, could they go to Texas? And then here we go. He's in Texas, man. Jimmy looks happy, man. He looks so happy. Like I love it. Like he has a personality now. He's cracking jokes and shit. Like Mayor's right.
Jokes, but it's still, jokes.
Oh yeah, corny jokes for sure. Like his wife besses him in the joking department, but he genuinely looks happy, which makes me happy. Marcy, what are your thoughts seeing Jimmy in this episode?
Love seeing Jimmy. As soon as they said that they were heading to Texas, I was like, Jimmy, they're going to work Jimmy back in because we know they've got to work him in at least back to Yellowstone. But we know that there's, the 4/6 show that's coming out like sometime that they've been talking about forever. So it's a way to incorporate him. I love seeing Jimmy happy. I love seeing like little moments where it shows like the nature of a relationship and just kind of the everyday like moments that are just like tiny moments and they don't really mean anything and they don't really add to a story other than to show just how like tender or like how strong a relationship can be. So I love just the scenes of him and Kat, I think his wife's name is. I love seeing Jimmy happy. I hope when we come back the next part of the season, if Jimmy is a bigger part of Yellowstone since they are in Texas, I hope that they don't like fuck up with his happiness or anything. Like just let Jimmy be happy. He's been through a lot. I love seeing it.
Yeah, I'm a cynic by nature, so like I was automatically like, Jimmy happy. Oh no, Jimmy's not gonna be happy. So like Jimmy's too damn happy for Paramount. Somebody had to die soon. I love. I'm piggyback I want to clap up everything Marcy said about the relationship between Jimmy and Kat. It is a beautiful, everyday, regular ass, and the most beautiful relationships are the regular ass relationships, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no pretense of superiority. I feel like Kat gets him. I feel like she understands him. She understands his weaknesses. And she nurtures those weaknesses. Like that's a beautiful relationship. It's like they lift each other up on a day-to-day basis, right? So like just seeing Jimmy, not just we can obviously tell that he's happy, but like she's teasing him, like, and he's just like, I'm happy. Like this is the height of happiness for him. That being able to be vulnerable in that moment and just being comfortable in that vulnerability. So salute to Jimmy, man. I'm interested to see. I've always been kind of curious on what this 66 show is supposed to give us. Maybe this is like the less gangster version of Yellowstone. I don't know. But curious to see. But love seeing Jimmy and hopefully, this is a long break, so that'll be their pretense to be like, hey, we're in Texas. Like we told you it was gonna take a long ass time. Like they kept mentioning that over and over again. I think that was like a nod to the audience, like, hey, long time. Yeah, get ready to take this long road trip to the summer. So yeah, I was all for it. And anytime Jimmy and his wife are on screen, like I'm happy to see that.
Kat might be my second favorite wife on the show, like hands down, because going back to last year, unlike Jimmy's previous girlfriend, Kat didn't only give Jimmy an option. Kat created a whole new option for Jimmy. And going back up to Montana with Jimmy, that was a woman grabbing opportunity, grabbing by the horns and saying, nah, you my man. Like I'm not gonna let you go through this alone. Unlike his previous girlfriend was like, shit, you leave, I'm gone. Like, and I'm not absolving Jimmy for what he did. Like Jimmy was a fucking idiot for like trying to, be a fucking, I don't know, buck rider and like falling off and breaking his back again or whatever. But seeing like the down nature loyalty level from Kat, she's a fan favorite of mine. I can't wait to see her in this 666 show. I do think in this second half of season 5, I think we'll get more 666 in that area, and I think it's a way of Taylor trying to introduce these characters in as a prelude to the show coming out. I don't know when it comes out, but I think the second half of the season will be largely focused on 666 as far as setting it up for the actual show.
And also, it takes Rip away at a time where the Duttons are at war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
or some type of civil war and things. Well, they are at war with market equities and all these other factions trying to take away the land. So
I have a feeling Rip won't be away long. I think once Beth like tells Rip what's going on, he's gonna come right back.
And she's mentioned this plane over and over again. I'll fly out to see you. So
let's talk about Beth, man. Since we mentioned her, there has been much Beth growth, and when there has been growth, it's been more regression. I thought after the fight with Summer, we would have seen a more mature Beth in that light. After, because normally when you fight like that, you like bygones be bygones. Cool, we have differences. Let's shake hands and be cool about it. But like the zings are still coming from Beth towards Summer, and that's when she finds out that the impeachment, potential impeachment from Summer's computer. Are you guys satisfied with Beth's arc so far? If so, why? I'll let Marcy go first.
No, because again, like you mentioned, there has been no growth or there has been regression. I've said this before. Beth needs a lot of therapy, and we've seen her be more vulnerable this season, which has been good. But again, like with that little bits of like growth and vulnerability, we also get regression. I mean, like she beat the shit out of Summer. It seemed like she was going to start another fight with Summer this episode, but then it just kind of like de-escalated, and it just seemed like, maybe like a sisterly thing where you're just like fighting, like don't touch my peanut M&Ms in the fridge. So again, like we're like, okay, like, they kind of squashed it. They didn't let it get like crazy. But then like Beth shows up at Jamie's house, hits him with a brick on the head, could have killed him. Like, what are you going to do then if you kill the attorney general?
Your chief of staff breaks into the attorney general's house.
Yeah.
That's
a little crazy. I don't know what to call that. But yes, no, we need more growth from Beth. It'll be interesting to see like what happens when the next part of the season comes out. I'm also interested to know, since they've been kind of doing all of these flashbacks, and now we know that Rip killed Howdy because of what he said. I wonder if somehow she's going to find out about it, and then what her response to that would be, because then I would think like she would feel really responsible that this is a reason why Rip has had to stay on the ranch and didn't really get to go out and do and be more things, even if he had wanted to, because he couldn't. Like, he was tethered to this ranch. He was branded and he couldn't really go out and do anything else. So I think that could really have an impact on her, because we've already seen her like be impacted by all of these dreams and flashbacks that she's been having and feeling very sorry because of, things she did when she was younger and how she treated Rip. So I think if she found this out, I think that would make her a lot more upset and maybe feel a little bit guilty about it. But also just kind of talking about the next generation, I saw like this zinger that Jamie threw at her when she was at his house. He's talking about, the next generation of which you had none. I think that was like brutal on Jamie's part. So yeah, that was hitting below the belt even for Jamie.
Yeah.
Their relationship is so fucked up. Like, it's hard, but it's also hard for me to feel full sympathy for her. And I definitely want to feel sympathy for her, because that was fucked up for him to say that. But everything between them is fucked up. There is no normalcy between them. It's all violence. It's all hitting. They exist below the belt. Jamie, as long as we've seen Jamie and Beth, they've only like escalated this hatred between them. Like, and it's gotten more visceral as the seasons have gone on. So the kind of concept I've been playing around in my head is like, how much of a victim of this is, like, how much empathy should I show Jamie? Because, man, like, he's been getting it. Like, he's been getting like a foot in his ass from this show for like And I mean, granted, like he's done some fucked up shit. He did something eternally fucked up to Beth. And I completely understand and empathize with her hating him for the rest of her life. That's cool. But like they can't even really have a professional relationship because of that visceral hate between them. And yeah, it's like at no point did I not think she was going to throw a rock through his window. When she pulled up, I'm like, how Beth Dutton is going to get into this house. You have to understand that, right? Because not because she's so determined, but she's a fucking bitch, and like she has no problem like being that in any situation, and she does not care about consequences. So to answer your first question, am I satisfied with her arc? Hell no. I'm entertained by it, right? But it's a car wreck entertaining, right?
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah, like when the steps she takes forward really only happen around Rip and Carter.
Yeah.
That is her center, right? The further she gets away from her center, the worse she is. So I think Marcy, what you just said was genius, because I think that's how the season ends, with Beth finding out about what Rip did in the name of her honor, and just this guilt that she's felt, because I think she definitely has felt trapped on the ranch. She's mentioned that millions of times. We don't know how much Rip has felt trapped by being there, because all we've seen is unwavering loyalty, right? How much of that guilt or shame or just reticence is just hiding beneath somewhere in his gut, like beneath that loyalty? That's what I want to find out. That's what I want to see in the second half of season 5.
You bring up an excellent point, Tristan, about not being satisfied with her arc, but being entertained by her arc. That's kind of where I'm at too. I don't the regression of her characters is something that has been a problem for me 5 seasons in. And I think where we differ, Tristan, is that the empathy you feel for Jamie is empathy I do feel for Beth. Because I try to put myself in this position that I'm very close to my mother. She's my best friend. And if I had a hand in my mother dying on accident as a young child, that will fuck with me forever. I wouldn't be the same Franklin I am today. I will be hardened. I have mommy issues. I would have just problem with authority. Like every day, she has to live with that. And then to even go on top of that, I can't give life. Like that's a twofer. That's one thing is damn near suicidal for a woman to know that you can't have children as well. It's like, bro, like how do you ever bounce back from that? And then to be a Dutton, to already be a Dutton is tough. But to be the reason why your mother's gone and to not be able to further your generation, for a lot of women, that's so damaging. And I think that's why she's not able to progress as a character, because of those dark things she went through she might have been like 12 or 13 when her mother passed. And then on top of that, her mother was hard on her too. So it's like she was hard on her growing up and like trying to make her this tough ass bitch, and then she loses her, so early in her life. It's just, when I get frustrated with Beth, I try to go back to that, like, how would I be if those things happened to me? And that's why I try to like check myself with Beth.
To clarify, like I get everything you're saying. I absolutely empathize with Beth. I get the hatred between both of them. I understand it from both sides, even though you could argue which one started, whatever. Like I get the hatred between them. She has every right to hate him. She has every right to be hardened, right? Life has hardened her, right? I completely empathize with that, to some degree. My thing is, like, at this point, they're in their 40s, right? And yeah, the hatred is going to be there. That's not going to stop. But they also are the fucking attorney general and chief of staff to the governor. And there has to be more of a professional relationship. Otherwise, they just incriminate each other. And it's like, I hate you, you hate me. Let's burn each other down. I will never, ever, ever, ever rock with that shit. I don't care what happened to you when you were a child. I'm never I've never been able to respect self-destructive people. That it's been a struggle for me. When I see people self-destruct, if there's empathy, yes, but it's also like, I don't know, like I can't understand them as people, right? I try to empathize. I actually work I actually work extra harder to empathize because my natural nature is like, what the fuck, right? So, and Beth is a what the fuck, and I try my best, like you, to empathize, but gosh, she makes it hard to empathize. Like Beth, you are a well-educated, very charming, very beautiful, brilliant. Like, you have all these aspects. You could have gotten into that house in a much more respectable way without having to do something illegal, and not just put yourself at risk, but put your father at risk, which you claim that to be your number one mission. So, like, she just fails to use her full potential, even though she flaunts like the weight of that potential all the time, and it's hard for me to respect.
I think that's going to be her downfall. Again, she's so brilliant. She could do all of these things, but she gets like this white hot rage, and that like clouds her judgment a lot. So if she could just figure out how to harness that rage, and again, like you said, Tristan, like be smarter about how you're going to do things, it would be good. And I also empathize with her, but at the same time, again, you also have to like try to get yourself out of like the tough situation if you can. She had essentially been gone from the ranch for about like 20 years, right? She went off to college. She, had this career. You're telling me that in like all of these 20 years, you couldn't like try to heal in some way? Again, like whether it's through therapy, whether it's other things, I think if she had done that, she might be able to weather like these wounds, that very deep wounds that she has about her mother dying and about not being able to have kids. She might be able to weather that a little bit better than how she is now, where everything just feels like it's so raw for her. And again, it's clouding her judgment, and she's not making the smartest decisions. So yeah, she hasn't really grown any, I think, in the time that she's been gone from the ranch.
I feel like we can do a whole podcast just about Beth alone. Like, she's such a dense character, and it's
we are her therapist.
Yeah, we are. She was to us. I think she would be a lot better off. Let's talk about let's talk about Monica and John. So I love when John exhibits fatherly affection and fatherly advice, and like that warmth of being a father. That advice that she gave Monica, I think it was episode 4 at the funeral, was so insightful, and it stuck with Monica clearly. And with John going to Helena and Rip going south, and Beth not being there as much, there's nobody to run the ranch. So John pretty much asked Monica, "Hey, I need Casey here. Can y'all take the East Camp, I guess, compound or house that needs some work?" And they're going to stay. One thing that caught my attention with that is I didn't realize how close Monica and John are, or were, or can be. I didn't think that potential was even there, because, mind you, in season 3, like, Monica and Tay almost got killed, and she was anti, like, I ain't fucking with that ranch at all. And so
John made some efforts.
Oh yeah, for sure.
John was making efforts. John like had them up in the actual house. Like, hey, you can take. I think he gave them his bedroom or something. Like, he made efforts. Like,
yeah,
I don't think she I know she hated being there because of the impending danger she knew was coming.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think she forgot the efforts that he tried to make, at least with her personally.
I love that. I love those tender moments. And on top of that, man, like, John hugs Casey. Like that's big for me. Like, I remember I was watching, they had a Christmas marathon season 2 and 3 on TV, and I watched episode 4, season 3. It was right after Tate got kidnapped. Tate's now saved, and like he's having these night terrors, and like so John takes the whole band camping in the hills, and that's when the wolf was following Casey. So in that episode, the wolf is like at the camp, and Casey's like talking to like, "Hey, don't come back," threatening or whatever. And when Casey turns around, John's there with his gun because he heard bumbling in the woods, and they have a conversation. Casey and John have a conversation, and Casey says, "I love you, Dad," and John just looks at him and walks away. I'm like, bro, you owe your son "I love you," bro. Like, what the fuck, like this, and like 2 seasons later, he finally says "I love you" and hugs him. Like, it felt like closure for me as a fan, because I'm like, bro, you and Casey have come so far. Y'all was so estranged for so long. It's like, bro, close that gap. Like, show affection to your son. Is like, I wish he would show it more than feel like he's an impending end to his legacy or to his life. What was your thoughts on that, Tristan? Go ahead.
John is struggling with the love or just feelings that he has for all the male children, or like all the male kids that he's raised up. Every single one. Like you said, he's I assume still feeling the grief of losing Lee. His relationship with Jamie is like this constant battle that's been like this inner battle. Like it's like he's fighting Jamie and himself at the same time. With Casey, he's fighting, these expectations and shit like that, or failed expectations, and how to cope with the fact that the expectations you had didn't get fulfilled, but you still love this person. Like, how to coincide those two feelings at the same time. And with Rip, he wants to bring Rip in past just being like his right hand employee. Like I think he wants to bring him in as a son. This is a son-in-law, and I think he admires Rip because he can handle Beth in a way that John has. He's retired from that. That jersey is up there. It's not coming down. He's washed in that sense. So like, he's struggling with all these male relationships, and we see it play out in that hug and with Casey, because Casey's just confused. Like, what the fuck? Like, I don't know if he's confused because it's something that's just never happened. I assume it's something that's probably never happened, or because, like you said, like he's remembering the lack of reciprocation on the "I love you" from season 3, or last season, season 3, one of these seasons. But yeah, I thought that was an amazing moment. Question for the pod: who does John have the best dialogue with in this show? To you,
from your perspective,
Monica.
Yeah,
Monica, yeah.
Like every scene between them two alone is golden.
Yeah.
I mean, from the beginning of the show, every single scene is like there's this struggle between them to understand each other. I think at this point they fully understand each other.
Yeah.
He fully understands her values and where she comes from, and how that keeps her from fully worshiping like this ranch like everyone else does, because she knows where this land originally came from and all the fights it took to keep it and to take it in the first place. And John understands that, and she understands John and his fight for family. Like, if they can't find that common ground, then they would never find it. Like, they both love family, right? They both love Casey. They both love Tate. So I love seeing how their relationship has grown to this point. And I would absolutely vote like every John and Monica have the best dialogue, or Monica has the best dialogue with John of any character in the show. I think
she brings out stuff out of John that other characters just doesn't bring out.
Because they worship him, and she doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, and for of course, for like cultural reasons as well, and like and they're finding out that I think in season 1 that John wanted Casey to have an abortion. Like, these things were like they were damaging for Monica, and so Monica's come a long way from all of that to like now, like being able to like have this passionate dialogue with him, and I finally see them as father-in-law and daughter-in-law. I didn't see that in previous seasons for sure.
Real quick with John and Monica, I think John also has to understand that he needs to like close ranks. Like, the threats to the family and their legacy are so vast that everybody has to come in.
Mhm.
Like, yes, obviously I think he genuinely loves Monica, but like he needs Monica in close because he needs Casey in close, he needs Tate in close. Everybody needs to be in.
No, for sure. I cannot agree more. You're stronger than I ever was. That's how it's supposed to be. I will never forget that line.
Man.
Like that's the biggest compliment you can ever give a child, especially a son that you've been a stranger for so long. That's forever gonna live within me. I love that line, for sure. Let's talk about John and Thomas Rainwater. I feel like this conversation that they were supposed to have weeks ago has not happened yet. Like it's like it was supposed to be the next day, and like so much has happened and it hasn't happened yet. So I know this pipeline thing is, the president came and they're trying to create this pipeline for Montana, I think, through the Dakotas and all of that. And John's finally, showing his support. John and the senator Linnell and Rainwater do not want this pipeline.
Linnell.
What the fuck? I love my train of thought now. Yes. So the pipeline. It seemed like John and Thomas are on the same accord on something finally. And then of course the impeachment news breaks out on throughout the airwaves and the internet. Where do you think John and Thomas go from here?
They have to, I think from here, they might somehow join forces again, because there is another common enemy. Like we've seen, what was it, season 1 or 2, where they're like, okay, like we can put our differences aside because we both have a common enemy that if we kind of team up, we can defeat him. And then like, we'll squash our stuff later. So I think that might be like something that they are going to do. But I hated that the whole impeachment thing kind of took over this whole like press conference that they were going to do. So we didn't really get to hear from Thomas about like what this pipeline would do to his community. We got to hear from John, an outsider, about what this might do to the community, but we didn't get to hear from Rainwater himself. So that was kind of stealing Thomas's thunder, right? He didn't even get to speak at this press conference because it was hijacked by this whole impeachment thing. So that kind of like made the scene suck for me. Like I really wanted Thomas to deliver like a really great speech about how they shouldn't build this pipeline there and how it endanger his community and how that's not fair. And we didn't get to see that.
I think the conversation Rainwater and Mo have with Linnell in the last episode is, I guess, supposed to be a placeholder for that, like where Rainwater kind of makes his spiel about why this is important environmentally. But like you, yeah, I was hoping to see Rainwater speak after John. First of all, John came in high heat, like real quick. Hey, this shit sucks. This is bad for people. This is environmentally racism. Who wants to follow that, right? But where I think this leads is that John just did Rainwater a huge solid. Like he just came through for the community, at least publicly. So, man, this gives Rainwater the opportunity to return the favor for John, and then again some more closing ranks. Like John, battle lines are being drawn, in various ways. So that's a great alliance for both of them to have, right? It's funny because it kind of parallels 1923 when they brought all the sheep to to the natives, and so like that, I think they're using that as a vehicle to strengthen the alliance between John and Rainwater, and they had been obviously estranged, and then tragedy happens. All these different things have happening on the ranch, surviving the ranch, so that they've taken John away from doing what he should be doing, which is politicking, right? That's probably the better way for you to keep this legacy going is through politics. Hey, these senators across the nation will have these ranches and farms on it forever, right? Because they politic, they They work leases. They, change. They work to change these laws so you can't take these things from them. So, yeah, John, let's get smart, man. Get back to politics and do your fucking job, John.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Cruise going to Cancun during a winter storm. It's like,
Oh.
get back to what you need to be doing, John. Come on. We love you, but we don't love you that much. Go do your job, please.
Camping in the mountains is the new Cancun in the ice storm.
I think I'm more surprised by how the people have just received John, even though he hasn't been in office lately. Like it's crazy to me. You haven't heard a lot of hoopla from the like how they have these politic ratings on TV about like, hey, like 87% of the public thinks that such is doing a good job. Like I would love to see the ratings right now from the public about how he's doing as governor, because he's never there.
Do people really give a shit about their governor?
Yeah, for sure.
Do we? Like, you could turn on the news right now, local news. You're not going to see a Abbott poll until like it's close to election time. And
they mentioned something on a news story though. Whenever they got back from the moving the cattle and the branding, where he's consoling the wife of the cowboy that had died. I think the reporter said, well, there are some that are thinking the governor's not really doing his job, but I think like he's doing, he's where he needs to be. But also, like, I think only 2 weeks have really elapsed throughout this whole season. So I don't even think like people really knew that he wasn't in Helena doing his job, because not a lot of time has passed.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, a lot of time has not passed. It's probably been a couple weeks. That's a good point. It just seems like it's been like 6 months. Yeah. But I guess it'd be like 6 months once they get back from the mid-season finale.
Yeah.
Shit, he's still assembling staff.
Like, dude, that staff should have been assembled, bro. Like
you need to assemble a staff before you get sworn in.
Yeah, like you in place, like
standard operating procedure. Man.
He literally made Beth chief of staff after he became governor. Like what do you like? That should have been made. That should have been figured out beforehand.
Like before you actually win the race, technically. Yeah. Staff, but anyway.
So last but not least, I want to talk about the bunkhouse. So now everybody's leaving. Well, Teeter and a lot of the bunkhouse mates are leaving with Rip to go down south, and I love this, man. One of the things I love about the show is the ripping and the jokes between the bunkhouse mates.
God, I miss that, man.
I miss that, and I need more of that. And that's one thing Taylor needs to like take in consideration going forward. Like part of the cowboy shit that we love so much is cowboys ripping on each other. Like that's the shit I love. And we didn't get enough of that. It was so serious this season. And like anytime Teeter's on TV, I rewind and I just enjoy those nuggets of gold because she's such a great actress. She's so fucking funny. And we get a tender moment between Teeter and Kobe. So they're cracking jokes, and Rip calls the cavalry to get in the trucks to get ready to drive. And Kobe is like ripping, like, making fun of Teeter, like I was supposed to be in a relationship and all this and all that. And then Kobe last minute realizes that, damn, my girl's gonna be gone for a long fucking time. And he runs out and they share this passionate kiss. And I must say, this is probably the most clearest of pronunciation of words I've heard Teeter say on the show. She said, "I love you" in such a Marilyn Monroe type of vibe. Like, I was like, was that voiced over by somebody else? That shit sounded so fucking clear.
Hey man, Teeter raises the level of every scene that she's in, man. I second that. I love her to death. She's one of my favorite characters. I actively look forward to her being on screen. That whole bunk scene, like I rewound it like 3 times. Like when I was high. So like when like funny stuff is happening, like people are ribbing on each other. When I see like friends ribbing on each other, that shit puts tears in my eyes. Right? Like that's the nature of like all my friendships. Is just like what was my guy? Like damn, I forgot his name, but I rewinded, like he has some zingers, man. Like
I've never seen that dude before.
I think it was Ethan or something.
Ethan? Yeah, it is Ethan. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen him before until this episode.
Definitely have never heard him talk, and you come through with a couple bars, man. Like I love that shit. Like you said, we need more. We need to. I think this season has been about kind of returning. Like we talked about it a lot, like returning to the roots of the show, returning back to the ranch. You know, kind of slowly discarding of his market equities plot line. Like, but that's where the heart of this show. That's what really got me outside of like the gangster shit. It's the bunkhouse.
Yeah,
that's the shit that really got me stuck on this show, and I need it back. And I love that scene, man. Between Kobe, like, what did Urkel say to Laura? Where are you at? Like, she wore his ass down. She wore his ass down, man. I realized, yeah, I know, I need you.
Yeah, so, yeah. That's a beautiful moment for sure. And I think the writing will get back to elite level writing when you bring back those characters a lot more, because those guys are fun. It's in such a doom and gloom show. Those are the moments that you remember the most. Is the ribbing, the going back and forth, the interactions, the funny moments, the Teeter mispronouncing words or like not being able to understand the fuck she's saying. Like, even go back to the county fair, like saying, "I want a bar." Like I'm like, "You want a bar?" Like what the like, you know,
those moments give the show. Those moments give like the full story levity, because like they're having all this fun, and there's like you said, there's this impending doom always happening around the ranch. So it's like we're laughing with them while also being anxious with them. What actually happened?
Marcia, we gonna say something?
No, I just more bunkhouse, please. And again, it just seems like the bunkhouse is like, this is where joy happens. Shit like is happening all around, but like the bunkhouse is like the one place where they're still making jokes, even if there are all like these threats and like scary stuff going on around it. And you don't know if the ranch is going to survive or like if the people are going to survive. I think like they don't care. They're just doing their jobs and they're having fun. So more bunkhouse scenes, please.
And even with that, like seeing Rip smile, like Rip's like it's like enjoying the ribbon going back and forth, and like anytime Rip smiles, I'm happy, because you rarely ever see him smile unless he's like cracking a joke with Beth, or you know, he's saying something funny to John, which is very rare. So like to see that stoicness kind of go away a little bit temporarily, to see him laugh and like all of that, it just, I don't know, it makes me. Like Cole Hauser to me is Rip. Like I don't see Cole Hauser anymore. Like he's Rip, and like he encapsulates that character, and like the moments of happiness really like makes me happy about the show when he's happy.
He was on Jimmy Fallon, I think. Was it? Yeah, I think it was Jimmy Fallon. And like all I could see was Rip.
Yeah,
I couldn't see anything else but Rip. I wasn't seeing the fucking skinhead on Higher Learning, like which is how I've seen him.
Yeah,
since 1995, and it's been really hard to get past that, because he played that role a little bit too well. This is another thing I love about this show and his character. It's made me appreciate Cole Hauser again, because he's been great in every character I've seen him in since Higher Learning. But I've hated him since Higher Learning because of how shitty that character was. But this character, like you said, like seeing him smile feels like an evolution or something. Which scares me. I'll just say that it worries me a little bit.
Yeah, it for sure does, man. I want to talk about Carter, man. Carter has not got he hasn't had a lot of TV time. I wish Carter had more interaction with Beth and Rip for more of a parental space. It's weird to me because like Taylor introduces this character in season 4, and he's adopted by Beth and Rip, which is a huge thing. But we kind of go away from that, and you're seeing more cowboy Carter than like Carter, son of Rip and Beth. And I would like to see that, because to me, I think you mentioned it earlier, Tristan, Beth is humanized the most when she's around Carter, because like she took on this role of trying to be a mother and like, you know, trying to save this child. And I would love to see that more, man, because I think Carter has the opportunity to be the centerpiece to Rip and Beth's happiness. Even Rip's talking on him now. Like Rip's like showing him the ropes and all of this stuff around the ranch. Is like, I just need more of the parental side, man, because this is an orphan. This is an orphan turn now, you know, one of the low level loyalty members of this ranch now. He's part of the family. Like he's gonna be part of the family for for the foreseeable future now. So, but like he has his love interest by the name of Haley. Some student that's in town. I guess they're in town over the summer and they're going back and like this little love interest. It was kind of random because I think she debuted like 2 episodes ago, and like now she's going back to wherever she's coming from the summer, and Carter's smitten by her, and it's cute, it's adorable. I don't know where it goes from here because she's leaving, but what did y'all think about Carter and Haley and his character just in general, Marcy?
I think it's cute. It's kind of like young love. I don't know, again, like you, if it's going to lead to anywhere, if they just wanted to show just kind of Carter and like just puppy love. But I think its presence could be really healing for Beth if she could just realize that while she may not be able to physically birth a child, there are like many different roads to motherhood and to parenthood. And if she could like somehow see that, I think that could be really healing for her. And if she kind of like really taps into it and allows herself to be vulnerable, I think that could really help her. So yeah, I just wish she would get out of her head so much and like give up some of that rage that she has, and she's focusing so much on Jamie and like making Jamie's life miserable and like finding all of these fights for John or for the ranch or just for herself, when she could just be like focusing on happiness and deciding not to like play into all of this. So I'm hoping that when the season comes back, we see more of Carter and we see more of her just kind of leaning into that aspect of her life and not so much like I have to be fighting everybody all the time.
And I think what you just said, Marcy, is what Rip is kind of subtly trying to teach Beth.
Yeah.
Right? Like people who focus on the past, like they live in that pain. Right? And Beth is acutely focused on the past, only focused on the past to a degree. As far as like Carter, man, if there's one thing Taylor Sheridan loves, it's a good parallel. He loves a good parallel. Blonde, beautiful little girl coming in from the summer. 1923. You got blonde, beautiful girl who summers in Montana. Like, man, he loves a good Casey Spencer. Like, he loves Beth Elsa. Like, he loves a good parallel. Good God. I think it's cute. You know, I think, again, another parallel, Rip, and his inability to handle Beth or be able to handle Beth at that age with Carter and his lack of experience, you know, being an orphan and not really having any formal training on how to talk to or interact with the opposite gender. So it's a fun thing. Like I said, I do want to see more domestically between Carter, Rip, and Beth. But I think that's where, like I said, the show is trying to get back to slowly. It's just kind of have to discard some of these plot lines that don't serve the full show as well. But I think Taylor Sheridan wants to get back there. I think Taylor Sheridan wants to make cowboy shows. I think Taylor Sheridan also made a show that is remarkably popular. And when things get too popular, you start to see these changes, right? So, and it's hard to get back to like the essence of something when you have a mandate of, hey man, 1 to 5 million people are watching all these episodes. So I get it. And I hope we fully get back there in the second half of season 5. Like I said, the center for Beth is Rip and Carter. Yeah. And she needs to understand it's no longer her father, right? Because as much as she loves her father loves her. Her loyalty to her father only flames like the rages that she has. And she needs to leave that in the past and focus on what's in front of her, which is her loving husband and, you know, this boy that they brought into this home and they're trying to raise up, and which could do both for both of them, because she needs to learn how to be a mother, how to be a caregiver. Rip needs to learn how to be a caregiver from a father perspective, and not lead with the same hammer that he was raised with. You know, like there's a better way, right? Real quick, I remember having a conversation with my mother because I put something on Facebook about, I don't, whoop my kids, I don't hit my kids, whatever. And my mom put something, not to like, defensive, but just like, oh, I'm surprised by it, you know, whatever. And I was just kind of briefly explaining to her, like, I don't think there was nothing wrong. I got like very few whoopings, nothing brutal, nothing I would, you know, describe as brutal or cruel or anything like that, you know. But I just like, hey, I turned out pretty well. I got whoopings. I turned out well, but that doesn't mean it's not a better way.
Right.
So we're always looking to evolve as parents, and Carter presents a great opportunity for both Beth and Rip to leave behind the demons of their past. Now, this is going to sound so poetic, and accept the angels of their future. Wow. I didn't even.
Ooh,
Wow.
love that.
This is what the weed does, ladies and gentlemen.
They ain't you, bro. That's drugs. So
right there.
with that poetic ending that Tristan just gave us, man, we're going to draw it to a close right there, man. Again, thank you so much for joining me on and nerding out on this show. The Watchers World, man. If you have any questions or any shows y'all want us to do, please let us know. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at Watchers Basements. Like, subscribe, share, please, 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 please. Again, this is for episode 8 of season 5 of Yellowstone. I'm Franklin, Tristan, Marcy. And again, listen to us, give us a 5-star rating. We're also on Spotify, Apple Music, and Google Podcasts as well. So check us out. Love y'all. Y'all be good. Peace out.
Last of Us in 2 weeks.
Ooh, let's get it.